Welcome back, everybody. That was really fun. We hope you enjoyed the icebreaker session and you all got to know each other a little bit more, maybe met some new faces or connected with some old friends. Next up, we have Anouk, Lanouette, Turgeon, Lhassa's mother, and Kipone.org advocate. We are extremely grateful and thankful for Anouk volunteering to share her story and some of her most precious moments with us, helping us see a glimpse of all of the love and joy paired with the pain and grief that KAND can cause. So thank you, Anouk, for being here today. Following Anouk's video, we will be sharing our We Remember video as well.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anouk. I'm from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. As many of you know, my daughter Lhassa died on November 15th, 2019. She was 5 years old and 9 months and 6 days. So this is her room here, what used to be her room. This place is now an office where I part-time work. It also still is Lhassa's room. The urn with her ashes is right there on my left. I'm gonna briefly show it to you. And so we kept all her clothes in here. That might sound weird, but let me reassure you, it happens to parents who lost their child. We just can't let go of some things. So the oxygen machine, the suction machine, all the medical stuff is gone, but her clothes are still here. So I decided to do this without much order, meaning I'll start with the end and I'll finish with Lhassa's birth. So, and I won't go into much detail about anything because I only have 10 to 12, maybe 13 minutes. So I'll rush you through our life and without much chronology. So 24 hours before her death, Lhassa seemed like she was thriving. She was shouting from joy in the living room. I have videos of that. And then she became ill and everything went very quickly. It was some random respiratory virus, a benign virus, which would normally not have killed a normal child, of course. It would cause a common cold. But because of Kipone's progressive course, Lhassa's respiratory capacity had become very frail. She also had one of the most severe variants of the mutation. So on November 14th, 2019, she gave us several signs that she didn't have the strength to fight one more battle. We already had these surreal discussions with the palliative care team about the resuscitation status. So we made this unthinkable decision to let her go, meaning we chose her comfort over her life. This is an impossible decision to make, one with which you can never be at peace with as a parent, ever, because of all the what ifs, you know. Sorry, I hit my computer. Lhassa was 5 and something months when I realized she had not reached any development milestones. No visual contact, no head control, no interest in her environment whatsoever. So medical investigations began and no one had a clue. I knew from then on, though, that my daughter would be severely disabled. It took 3 years before we actually got the KIP1A diagnosis and heard the word degenerative for the first time. By then, I had gotten used, believe it or not, to the idea of living with a severely disabled child in a wheelchair, tube fed, and so on. Then I had to deal with the fact that my daughter would most probably never reach adult age. And that I could never get used to. Lhassa was so profoundly intellectually disabled that for years, she gave us no sign that she recognized us. So it took years, almost 3 years, actually, before I could tell that she recognized my voice, before she reacted to the way I swung her, for instance, by granting me with a smile or soft, sweet sounds of comfort. 3 years before she reacted to me tickling her. And on that day, I went hysterical. I also have videos of that. I had a new reason to exist. My child recognized me, and I realized this is the only thing that matters. That relationship, that bond. Towards the end of her short life, Lhassa reacted to a musical piece by the group The Bad Plus. The piece is called Prehensile Dream. It was summertime and Lhassa was in her best shape and mood. This child, you know, whom I furiously love, of course, probably had the intelligence of an eggplant and had never reacted to music. But when I put on this disc, from the very beginning, she started to look curious about where the sounds were coming from. So she was sitting on my lap face to face with me. I held her and I started playing fake piano on her back, her cheeks, her neck, her belly. And she uttered these adorable high-pitched sounds. It lasted during the whole piece, and I nearly collapsed from happiness. So that was it. A prehensile dream. A dream having the capacity to grasp you. So real and sublime, it impregnates you forever. Lhassa was born without any complications on January 21st of 2014 at 6 p.m. She was healthy, beautiful, perfect, and this was the happiest day of my life. She drank from the breast right away, eagerly. She had dark hair, lashes until tomorrow, a perfectly rounded skull, normal reflexes, delicate lips, long and tiny fingers, like her father. Thin fingers, I wrote. All the pieces in the right place. And I was in a complete bliss for several months. Our first child, Ellie, as many of you know, was born with Down syndrome and had many life-threatening issues during the first year of his life. So I thought really we had had enough hardship and shit for a whole lifetime. But then, apparently not. Anyway, I want to mention one thing that Lhassa made happen in our lives and in the world. We created a small group of 4 warrior mothers here in Quebec called Parents jusqu'au bout, which means more or less parents until the end. We demanded financial support for severely disabled children, and we made it. Eligible families now receive approximately 1,000 Canadian dollars a month to help with complex care of their child and to compensate some loss of revenue. Cheers to that. I also wanted to say a word or two about child loss. I spoke to several parents who are also grieving their child. We have several things in common, as is to be expected, but one aspect that struck me is that we live divided. One part of us is functioning, going to the grocery store, to the pharmacy, seeing friends, going back to work, parenting our other children, being a wife to our husbands, and so on. The other part of us is crying in pain forever, inconsolably and silently. And this mute heaviness is always there. So sometimes it's really hard to reconcile these two parts and act normal. And it is tiring. So we are basically endlessly tired. We also live in constant fear of another tragedy. The world has become a very anxiety-inducing place, a meaningless place also. That is also tiring, searching for meaning. Anyway, we try our best to keep loving life, and most of us do, I think, while bearing the unbearable. Because child grief doesn't end, as you can easily imagine also, I suppose. Our children weren't supposed to die before us, and it is impossible to accept, period. People tend to want us to heal and be okay, but that won't happen. We need the world to acknowledge that. The weirdest phenomenon for me is sometimes forgetting that Lhassa died. This still happens to me nearly 2 years after her death. When I'm fully absorbed in something and I forget that I ever had kids or a home or a husband, and then it all comes back to me like a boomerang, and the weight of Lhassa's death comes back and hits me, and I realize that for a very short while, I had forgotten about her death. Lastly, before Lhassa's death, I first had to grieve the normal child I would never get. What I had not imagined, however, was that she would make the most beautiful smiles in human history. This incomparable smile that arrives each time with an extraordinary slowness and softness on her face. You know, I don't think we go to heaven when we die, but I'm sure my daughter's smile comes from paradise. When she died, I promised to continue to share her beauty into the world everywhere I go, and I will, as I will let her loss transform me, not knowing where it'll take me. And you know something really weird and awkwardly beautiful? When I dream of Lhassa, I know she's dead. Her eyes are closed. Her body is inert, but she smiles. So her smile survived her own death. And I somehow love that. Thank you.